Hey guys, so today we are going to be doing another tier list, and 'tis the season for Halloween movies, so I thought, why don't we rank every single Halloween horror movie that I can think of. Now, I have a little bit of a pet peeve when people say Halloween horror movies because they'll start naming things like The Conjuring, and that's fine to watch around Halloween, but I'm talking about the movies that take place on or during Halloween season where it is clearly a Halloween movie, you know what I mean? Not just like spooky, scary movies that you can watch during Halloween. No. This is Halloween at its finest. Halloween cinema, if you will. How many times am I gonna say Halloween in this video? I don't know. Now, I have 24 movies that I personally could think of that are very Halloween-y. I did do a 31 Days of Halloween last year, which I will link that video up here if you need some more movie ideas, movie recommendations for Halloween. And some of the movies that I talk about in today's video are not on that list. So you're gonna get a bunch of new recommendations from me today for Halloween. Now, if you want even more horror movies to watch during the Halloween season and you're not subscribed to Shudder, what are you doing? Shudder is, of course, the Netflix of horror movies with all of the best horror, thriller, and supernatural movies, series, originals, from cult classics to new movies that you won't be able to find anywhere else. This is absolutely the best time of year to sign up for Shudder. If you have ever been debating it before, now is the time to do so. They are releasing brand new content all the time. They have new episodes of 101 Scariest Horror Movie Moments added every single week. I'm personally anticipating VHS 99, which is a Shudder exclusive, coming on October 20th. I am so excited for that. And of course, the highly talked about disturbing movie Speak No Evil, also on Shudder. And I personally recently watched Deadstream, which is the newest in the found footage genre, which is my favorite subgenre of horror or style of horror, and thought it was a really good time and definitely some good comedy in there. I will talk more about Deadstream though in my monthly recap. Shudder has the largest and fastest growing collection of horror classics and blockbuster hits added every single week that you can stream completely ad-free on all of your devices, including Xbox One, iOS and Android, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Google Chromecast, all for $5.99 a month or $56.99 per year. Shudder's expertly curated collection includes must-see titles such as Hellbender, VHS 94, which again, incredible, I love the VHS series, and The Boy Behind the Door, and also including all of the best horror documentaries, and of course the hit Creepshow TV series from executive producer of The Walking Dead, Greg Nicotero. So you can try Shudder for free for 30 days if you go to shudder.com, that's shudder.com, and use my code POSSESS30. Okay, so we are starting off with 4 tiers today, and I don't actually have like a bottom tier in a negative sense. It will be kind of negative, but I genuinely love a good Halloween horror movie, so I will absolutely get some kind of enjoyment out of it if it takes place around Halloween. So I'll probably be the least critical of these movies in any of my tier lists, which I know some people think I go a little harsh on, but these are just for fun. You know, this is just my personal ranking and not to be taken too seriously or anything like that. This is just for you to get some recommendations. And I love talking about Halloween horror movies. So up first we have top tier horror movies, which I'm calling mandatory. You guys understand what that is, right? That doesn't look too weird. My tiers always look weird. I think it's the browser or the website that I use. Anyway, next category we have all year round. Pretty self-explanatory. These are the movies that are good no matter the time of year. So obviously I will watch these movies all year round. For the mandatory, they're very they're both very positive tiers, but for mandatory, I have to watch these Halloween movies in order for it to feel like a successful Halloween season. That's the differential there between the two. Next, we have movies that fit into 'tis the season category. So these are just the movies that are good for the season. I wouldn't watch them any other time of year and expect some cheesiness going on in them. They're not top tier horror movies by any means. You're watching them for the Halloween vibes. And the last tier will be the worst of the Halloween horror movies. That doesn't necessarily mean they're all terrible. They're just not that great. So this category is called When All Else Fails. So these are the movies, the Halloween movies, when you've seen all of them. You've seen all of the good Halloween horror movies and you need some more Halloween in your life. These are the last resort Halloween horror movies that if you've seen absolutely everything, these will be your next go-tos. Because to be honest, there aren't enough Halloween horror movies in my opinion. We need a lot more. 24 are all that I personally could think of. If I'm missing any, please feel free to let me know. Anyway, let's get started with the first one. I bet you can't guess what it is. Halloween 1978. Now this is obviously a classic. A lot of people are probably going to put this in mandatory or all year round. And absolutely, I agree. It's not mandatory for me personally to have a good time, but it is an all year round type of watch for me. I don't think it's too much in the Halloween spirit, even though it is called Halloween, where you can't watch it any other time of year, but it is a classic and I have to pay homage at least a little bit and put it in the top 2, although it's not a personal go-to for me. I personally prefer Halloween 2018. I just rewatched this yesterday because I was talking about Halloween Ends. Obviously, I just did my review for that and I was so in the mood for the entire trilogy. I did watch Halloween Kills earlier in the month, so I watched the whole trilogy this month. And this one I do enjoy more than the original. I know that's really controversial, but I'm all about being honest here and just sharing my opinion without any shame, because guilty pleasure who? I don't know. This one I think is gonna go in mandatory. I think Halloween 2018 is a mandatory viewing for me in order to feel good about my Halloween season. It just is so good, and especially after watching Halloween Ends and what a train wreck that was, I really appreciate Halloween and Halloween Kills that much more. Now, speaking of Halloween Kills, that is not in here, nor is Halloween Ends. You get the idea with these movies, okay? I don't need to include every single sequel. I do have sequels for other movies in this, but for those, we're just gonna keep it simple here. Now, the third Halloween movie, a controversial one, if you will. This one I love. I love watching this every single year. I think Rob Zombie did a great job with this, and I know not a lot of people agree that this one is very divisive of a movie. I don't think the second one is great, but this Rob Zombie from 2007 is iconic to me. You know what? I'm gonna put it in all year round. I don't think it's mandatory for me to see it every single year, but it is one that I have revisited, not in the Halloween season. Next up, another classic, Trick or Treat. This one I think is pretty obvious where this is going. This is a mandatory. This is a mandatory viewing, although I will say I am getting a little bit burnt out by all of the Trick or Treat merch. When you go to Spirit Halloween, that's all they have. And I love Trick or Treat, don't get me wrong. It's an early 2000s movie, which it doesn't really feel like one in my opinion. But I'm just getting a little bored. So like I'd like to move on to like a different Halloween movie, maybe something later in this video. But we had to start out with the classics, okay? So obviously Trick or Treat, mandatory. Next we have The Houses October Built. This is a found footage, a little bit underrated. This is not one that I revisit throughout the year. This is definitely a 'tis the season type of vibe for me. Also not a mandatory one, but it is an underrated Halloween movie that I bust out every couple years or so to watch during the season. And with that, we have Houses October Built 2. I don't remember too much of this one. I think I will rewatch this one specifically this year because I don't remember a lot of it, and I feel like I'm due for a viewing of this one, but it also kind of goes in the same tier. I remember it not being as good as the first one, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, together, I think they're great movies. Next up, we have May. This one is very much underrated. I love this movie, and this one is definitely a year-rounder for me, I think. I think I discovered this a couple years ago, like in 2020 or something like that, and I was mad that I had waited so long and had not seen it sooner, especially for Halloween. It's not mandatory, but it is a great, underrated Halloween movie. It has Anna Faris in it, which I don't think a lot of people know. It's iconic. It's a great early 2000s Halloween movie. Next we have Murder Party. This is a horror comedy. Not 100% my jam for the comedy, but this one's genuinely really good, and this one I think holds up and does not feel like the year it came out. I think it came out in 2007 or 2009, one of those. This is by Jeremy Saulnier, who did Green Room, Blue Ruin. It's just a different tone for Jeremy Saulnier, I think. This one's definitely a 'tis the season though. It's really well executed, but I can't seek it out any other time of year. It's definitely just a Halloween movie, but it's pretty solid if you are in the mood for a horror comedy, something that's a little bit lighter and not as dark as some of these other ones. Ooh, next up we have Haunt. This movie is so good, and I know people know about it, I know people talk about it, but I still consider it underrated. It is so fantastic. This one is one of my favorite Halloween horror movies of all time. This is a mandatory. I am obsessed with this movie. I think it's so well done, and not enough people talk about it. I think a lot of people write it off along with like Hellfest and whatnot as kind of similar in cheesiness and everything like that, but no, it is fantastic. You have to watch Haunt. Scary Stories. This is again one of my favorite Halloween horror movies. I knew I would love this one. It is PG-13. Guillermo del Toro worked on it. I love the original books, illustrations by Stephen Gamble, come to life. I love this movie. It is mandatory for me. But also it fits in the second category of I will watch it any time of year. Like, I'm always down for a rewatch of Scary Stories. I think people underestimate how horrific the images actually are and how cool the practical effects were that they actually used in a lot of the monsters. I love everything about it. I think it was so well done. Speaking of Hellfest, we obviously have to include it. This one, a little bit cheesy. This is definitely on the cheesier side. The characters are a little bit insufferable, I'm not gonna lie. Besides the main girl, I think she's fine. Besides that though, I don't love these characters. They're a little hard to root for. Tony Todd does make a cameo in this, by the way. Now this one, you're just watching for the vibes. You are 100% not really in it for the plot. Although I do think some parts of it are underrated, like the mask being made by the same people who made the Happy Death Day mask. It's a very iconic mask. I like Hellfest. I do enjoy it, but it's definitely not one that I need to see every single year. Only when I really want like ultimate Halloween vibes, because this festival I would love to go to. Horror Nights doesn't really compare. This is completely different. Next we have 31, another Rob Zombie movie. I love Rob Zombie Halloween movies. I think they're really good. This one no one talks about. Super good. I really like it. Not an all year, well, it is kind of an all year rounder. I think it holds up throughout the year, not just for Halloween. What do I put it in though? I've been pretty confident thus far, and I'm pretty good about where I've put things so far. But I'm gonna do all year round. I'm not trying to balance it out by any means. I have 4 in each. Not trying to do that. See, obviously I told you I'd be really nice in this video. I haven't put even one in the worst category yet. But there are ones that go in there, just wait. But 31's really good. It has such a diverse group of monstery people, different scary type people. It's kind of like a survival, action-y horror movie, so it's a little bit different, but definitely very Rob Zombie. So if you're generally not a fan, not sure if you'd love 31. The Blair Witch Project, hear me out. I know it's not technically a horror movie. It's definitely a horror movie. Not technically a Halloween movie, but it takes place on October 4th. It takes place in October in the woods. To me, that's a Halloween movie. By the time everyone figured out that these people were missing, it was probably like around this time of year, right? Mid-October. So to me, this is a Halloween movie. And definitely one that I like to watch every single year, but obviously it's an all year rounder. Obviously you can watch this any time of year, but specifically in the fall, it just kind of hits different when you watch Blair Witch in the fall. Ginger Snaps, I had to include this. Of course, there's only like a little bit of Halloween towards the end, but again, this is one of those movies that hits different in the fall because the fall early 2000s clothing that they wear are so iconic. Yeah, Ginger Snaps is just a classic horror movie, period. But definitely for Halloween, I feel like it's a necessity, but not mandatory. I'm not gonna say mandatory, but it is a year-rounder. But again, fall time is just, it's just better in the fall. I did not think all year round would be this full. I really thought mandatory would be my fullest category. Next we have The Guest. Now this is one that no one talks about. This is definitely on the more subtle side of horror, so you're not gonna get a lot of super spooky scares or anything like that. A little bit more of a drama, action paced movie. It has Micah Monroe in it, who I am super loving in the horror genre, horror thriller genre lately. So if you're also a fan of her, I would definitely check this out. She's so strong in this. The Guest overall is just underrated. And the background is Halloween. It's set around Halloween time. So I'm gonna put it in all year round. It's not super Halloween-y where it's, you know, only for the season. It's just a strong movie overall and definitely underrated. Hell House LLC, I just rewatched this one the other day as well. This one is a really big standout for a lot of people for this time of year. I think it's a very unique found footage, like mockumentary style Halloween movie, and it's just really fun. I really think this one's fun. I like the scares in it. I think they're really good. I will put it in 'tis the season. I think it is a seasonal movie. It feels seasonal to me anyway. It could be all year round for some people, but for me, I never really seek it out unless it's Halloween. Terrifier. Now, I love me some Art the Clown, don't get me wrong, but are these movies really great? Not really. I mean, they're fun movies. They're just a very unique movie experience because you are in it for gore, you're in it for the kills, you're in it for Art the Clown, you know, you're not in it for a story. You know, they tried to do that with Terrifier 2, which kind of could be hit or miss for some people, I think. Very much 'tis the season though for Terrifier. I like watching it occasionally, depending on the year, but yeah, well, it's a lot. It's a lot to see. Very, very gory. These are great to watch with friends though. If you're like having a Halloween party or anything, and on that note, we have Terrifier 2. I had to include it because it's brand new. This movie was really good. I did enjoy it, but again, you're getting a certain type of horror from it. It's a lot. It's so much to look at. People were passing out, puking for a reason in the theater when they saw this. It's gory. And again, 'tis the season. These aren't ones that I like to bust out in April. You know, these aren't our casual springtime viewing. These are if you want the extreme gore for Halloween. That's what you're gonna put those on. Tales of Halloween. This one is an anthology movie. I honestly don't remember a lot of the stories, and I don't really have a desire to rewatch this one. This is not a favorite of mine, so this one is definitely going in when all else fails. If you've seen everything else, it adds a little bit of something to your Halloween season, but I don't necessarily really recommend it because I don't honestly remember that much about it. Sleepy Hollow. This is another one that is technically not a Halloween movie, but you can't tell me that this is not a Halloween movie. You know what I mean? This is a fall time movie. I do not seek this out any other time but the fall and winter. This is a great November viewing too if you're a little bit late, but you still want a little bit of spookiness in your November, which if you watch my channel, I assume you do. You want it year round. But this is great for fall. If it's like rainy outside, you pop this on, oh my gosh. The ambiance it's perfect. It's just like classic dark academia, fall time, Halloween goodness. It's not all year round, but I will say it's a mandatory. I do like to watch this every year for Halloween. I think it's a bit on the lighter side as well, so it's not like truly a horror movie, but the setting, the score, the atmosphere, everything about it is absolutely stunning if you love that dark academia fall time vibes. Cry Wolf is a great, also underrated early 2000s Halloween movie, although I do see more and more people talking about this one and like discovering it, which is great. Where do I put you? I don't really see it as all year round, but the Halloween setting is a little bit on the back burner. So I'll put it all year round, I guess. I think it fits there. Ultimately, it does feel a little bit more like a fall movie than like a truly Halloween movie in my opinion. But definitely not a mandatory viewing for me. I do watch it. I think I watched it last year. I'm probably gonna watch it this year for sure. I've been craving it. Maybe it isn't mandatory. Do I put it in mandatory? I'm gonna put it in mandatory. We're gonna switch things up a little bit. It's a mandatory viewing. Since I discovered it, I have watched it every year. So I think it's a mandatory. I take back everything I said. Not an all year rounder, maybe, because I don't think I watched it any other time of year, but we'll just go with mandatory. Gone Jam Haunted Asylum. Anytime I get to talk about this, I'm going to. Again, is it Halloween? No, but takes place in October. So you tell me that's not Halloween time. Just go with it. It's super scary. This one, it literally will scare your pants off if you like supernatural horror, if that's something that gets you going, you know? It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Obviously though, it's all year rounder. I discovered it in summertime, this summer actually. I could watch it any time of year, day or night, and it's going to scare me. The first time I watched it, during the day, scared my pants off. So next we have Boo. This one, this was an experience. This one, what was it, 2005 it came out. And so it definitely has that early 2000s, like mid 2000s cheesiness. Oh my goodness. I watched this yesterday for the first time. I know exactly where this is going. When All Else Fails. If you've seen everything and you haven't seen Boo, maybe give it a try. Halloween, very much on the back burner, I think, but a group of people, you know, college friends, go to an abandoned hospital, and obviously there's some like ghosty things going on there. Very interesting. Almost felt a little bit like The Thing, and I know that's probably gonna sell you a lot on it, but expect some of the worst acting you've ever seen in your whole life. If this movie was better acted, it would have been 10 times better, because the special effects actually weren't that bad. I really liked the practical effects in this, but definitely not one to recommend. It's too much to too many people. So if you're up for it, if you're up for some bad performances, give it a try. I think it's streaming for free on Peacock right now. Or is it free if you have to pay for Peacock? Probably not. It's on Peacock. And the last Halloween horror movie we're going to talk about, Truth or Dare. Now, there's a lot of movies called Truth or Dare. This is not the Lucy Hale one. This one is from 2017. You can see it has Guillermo in it. You see him from What We Do in the Shadows. This is not a good movie. This is not very good at all. I don't remember too much about it, but it does take place on Halloween, so I'm considering it a Halloween movie. And this is also going in When All Else Fails. So it's not great, but again, if you've seen everything, it's something. It's something that takes place on Halloween. So it's a movie, you know? Okay, so there you have my ranking of the 24 Halloween horror movies that I personally could think of. I know I'm missing some. I haven't seen every single movie ever to exist. So please tell me which ones you would also include. And that way we can all get a couple more recommendations for Halloween movies to watch for the last 2 weeks of this October. I cannot believe it's almost over. I know people say that every single time, it's annoying, but genuinely can't believe Halloween is almost over. But hopefully this gives you a bunch of stuff to marathon in those 2 weeks. Let me know your rankings or like your favorite Halloween horror movies of all time. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.